Hey guys, what's up? It's Dreadscape Game, and here and today I want to talk about Puppet Master the game, which had a brand new update introducing the Totem Faction. A faction that, if you have watched the Puppet Master movies, might remember from Puppet Master 4 and 5, led by the evil Sutek. With that being said, Puppet Master the game's new update just dropped recently, yesterday in fact, and what ended up happening with the game is it introduced not only the Totem Faction, but it also introduced two brand new modes. One of the modes that you're seeing right now on the screen is a Puppet Master mode, in which you play as either one human or free puppets trying to protect that human versus the free totems that are trying to take down the human. So the objective in this particular mode is that you have to find these shrines of Sutek, these statues of Sutek, that are scattered throughout the map while the evil totems are trying to kill you and the puppets are supposed to protect you. Overall, this is a pretty fun and solid mode. The one problem that I had with it is the fact that it's very, very hard to be able to differentiate between who is on your team in terms of the puppets that are protecting you and who is not on your team. Because I didn't notice while I was playing this particular mode that sometimes the totems would actually protect you as opposed to the puppets. I don't know if this is intended by design or if it was a very early on glitch that was happening with the game, but it was a little bit of confusion in terms of playtesting. I also noticed that whenever I was trying to help a human in this mode, sometimes they would get mistaken and think that I was the evil puppet faction trying to take them down. So I feel like in this retrospect there's a little bit of nuances that they could do to fix up the mode. Now, as for the totems themselves, they all have very cool powers. In fact, there is two totems that are featured from the movie, that being the regular Totem Warrior, which you saw mostly in Puppet Master 4 and a little bit of Puppet Master 5, as well as the, as it's called in the game, Totem Sutek, but in reality it's always been referred to in lore as King Totem. That being the totem that Sutek himself, this lovely chap that you see in the statue here, embodies and then becomes a puppet himself. So those two are cool. Sutek plays a lot like the Dominator, which is mostly known as Decapitron from Puppet Master 4 as well. So he plays very similar to that. He has a timer on him when you're playing in online matches, or you can kind of change the timer around so he's always available. It's pretty cool. Sutek is very OP, can ragdoll a whole bunch of puppets just with his left trigger attack if you're playing on controller like I play the game. The other thing that I would say about Puppet Master, the game, in regards to the update, is the fact that there are three unique puppets, or not really unique puppets, but unique totems, I should say. Those totems are actually pretty cool, that being the Ravager totem, which is kind of a dual weapon type of user, so it's a melee type of totem. There's also the Headhunter, which at first I didn't really care for him, but he can actually auto down players if you aim for the head, which I think is pretty cool when you aim right, even though he's very, very slow, and there's things that need to be tweaked with his one of his unique abilities that was not really working correctly in the first update. But you have to remember, with everything that's being done with Puppet Master game, it's a very small development team. To my understanding, I think they only got like 2 people who are developing this game, maybe even 1 person that is regularly developing it, so it takes a while for things to get pushed down. The fact that they've been able to do as much as they have, and it's a free-to-play game, and only like paid versions of stuff is like DLC cosmetics that you don't need to own to be able to play the game, because all the puppets you can pretty much play with, with exception of Freak and Decapitron, because they were kind of skins in the game. But that's like a whole other topic for another time. So it's pretty cool what they've been able to do with this labor of love. And originally the update was supposed to come out on the 15th, but it took a little while longer to get it out, which I appreciate, because they were going and trying to do bug fixes and everything. And they've been very fast with the bug fixes as well. There's been some bugs that were introduced in the beginning, and they patched it relatively quickly, within the span of maybe about 6 to 8 hours after the update had gone live. There's already a fix for some XP exploits that had gone live and stuff. Really, when it comes down to Puppet Master the game, my biggest concerns right now with it is honestly just the fact of there is not really that much of a player base. When the game launched, there was a big player base for it. And as time passed and, updates came a little bit longer, because obviously it takes a while for a small development team to get it finished up and kind of, refine it and put out patches and everything. Players kind of dipped out, because it's hard to kind of sell the game as, you know, what it is. Dead by Daylight, unfortunately, always has a stranglehold on ASIM type of horror game market. And I think what's really cool about this particular update is the devs themselves stated that this is not trying to be like Dead by Daylight. Yes, Thief mode in particular is a ASIM type of horror mode game type of experience, which is cool. But these two new modes in particular remind me closer to like Overwatch, where you're supposed to kind of do siege or overload payload, as some of the other modes call it, where you're supposed to just get free areas, hold those objectives, and then escape, which I think is cool because it brings a little bit more interesting playstyles. And it's like, hey, we do a little bit of horror ASIM in this game, but that's not our major focus. And I think the really cool thing about this particular update is if you're a fan of Puppet Master 4 and 5 growing up, like I was as a child, this kind of gives you the ability to, you know, have the puppets facing off against the totems, and there's a little bit of human in me. There's another mode too, Manhunt, which I've been kind of experimenting with a little bit. Manhunt basically is the same as this mode that you see here on screen. The only difference really is that instead of it being puppets versus totems, with you protecting the humans as the puppets usually, is that you have 2 humans and either 4 totems or 4 puppets. So it's 2 humans versus 4 puppets / totems as the faction. That mode is really cool. I think it's good that you're able to work with 2 human players, because sometimes when you're playing in Thief mode, puppets, experienced puppet players that have maxed out perks and stuff, tend to run roughshod on you when they know what they're doing, as well as humans for the, you know, there are some really good human players out there. So, really the modes are really fun and set it apart, but I'm very concerned because already some of the stuff that I'm seeing online, particularly in day 2 as I'm playtesting with stuff, is the fact that people have kind of tried out the update. My concern is people have already moved on from the update, just because, you know, Puppet Master fans are few and far between. The game itself, marketing-wise, hasn't had the best marketing strategy, so unless you're, like, watching Charles Band's Full Moon feature updates, where he briefly has talked about Puppet Master the game, unless you've been following this game through its development for the last, like, 8 to 10 years, where you already knew about it, there's not much out there. They're very spread far between, so they kind of rely on content creators to kind of give themselves a little bit of advertisement. They need to kind of do in my opinion, development diary, because there's nothing really wrong with the game. The game runs fun, and it's a fun game, but games of this nature always survive on their player base, and unfortunately right now, with the player base being as diminishing as it is, day 2, I'm already having a hard time getting games in. There is a single-player mode, but you can't play any of these modes on it. You can only play 2 Lines Journal. You can play the Thief mode now online again with the 1-player human bot while you wait for the lobby to fill. The problem with that, though, is the human bot on the online version is really, really buffed up and can kind of win the match within 30 seconds before you have people able to join. I personally have always felt like, and I know this is a very tall order for a small development team, that they need to have these modes available so that people can play them offline, maybe even if they don't get XP from it, just so that people can kind of test it out and just to kind of keep the game alive. Because I have a feeling that this is kind of one of those updates where, as great as it is, as with much content as it is, because there's new totem perks to grind, there's new cosmetics to grind, new totems to learn, everything sort, that this is going to be a game where people, after the first update, saw everything they wanted to see in terms of what the game had to offer, unless they're a diehard Puppet Master fan, are not going to be coming back. How do you rectify situations like this? It's kind of hard. Like, a lot of the stuff is that games that are online multiplayer tend to have live service models. I'm not a fan of battle passes. I'm not a fan of those type of things. But live service type of things, in-game events of some nature to earn cosmetics that are only tied to in-game event, tend to keep people engaged. Now, I see that on the roadmap, they have a Halloween update that should possibly be coming, so I don't know if that event is gonna kind of be like those events, but I think they need more of those type of things. They need things to kind of keep players engaged, because the thing about it here is you can play this mode, and after you've played it for a night or 2, unless you're a hardcore fan of the game, you're probably not going to stick around, and I'm already kind of seeing that type of drop off, which is unfortunate. Another thing is they really just gotta market the game, because unless you market this and let people know that it's out, it's just going to kind of suffer the fate of what happens to a lot of games. It's fun for when the update comes out, and then you can't find players, you get bored, there's not much you can do with the offline mode because it doesn't give you access to the rest of the mode, so you can't really practice too much. What you end up is with just being able to play Toon's Journal, and that's quite unfortunate. I think it's a really good update. It has a lot to offer, but it needs more players, and I'm a little hesitant about its future the way it's going on day 2. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me for today's video. As always, a like on this video is greatly appreciated. If you're not subscribed to the channel, definitely consider doing so, as it helps the channel grow. And I will see you for the next one.